The silent cry from Sector 9 space was silent. But from the edge of the galaxy, something broke that silence. A weak distress signal repeated again and again, floating across the stars. It came from Sector 9, a region the galaxy had long forgotten. Most ships never passed near it. Space maps marked it as a dead zone. No trade, no life, no help. But someone was still alive out there. On Earth, deep in a small observatory in New Alaska, a young technician named Mira Leon leaned over her, console. She rubbed her tired eyes and stared at the signal. It had come in 3 times already. This time she recorded it and cleaned up the noise. Then she heard it clearly. To any species, please. We are the last of the Girini. We are dying. Help us. The message was broken, weak and full of static. But it was real. Mira looked up the name Girini. Nothing showed up on Earth's public database, not even in the deep archives. But her gut said it mattered. She sent the recording to her boss, Captain Rainer Voss, an ex-soldier now running civilian missions for Earth's Frontier Aid program. Most people ignored old signals, but Rainer wasn't like most people. He stared at the screen quietly, then looked at Mira. Did anyone else receive this? No, we're the first. Then we're going. Mira blinked. Sir, Sector 9 is abandoned? Yeah, which makes it the perfect place to bury the truth. 2 days later, Rainer's small but strong ship, the Dawnbreaker, flew fast past the safe zones of known space. Mira, Rainer, and 2 more crew members, Rico, the engineer, and Tom, a pilot and ex-Marine, were the only ones aboard. The closer they got to Sector 9, the colder the space felt. The stars here were dim. Planets looked empty. They finally reached the source, a broken, half-dead planet called Velis Prime. Velis was once a beautiful world. Now its sky was green with toxins and parts of the surface burned with firestorms. Scans showed destroyed cities, dead forests, and strange scars on the planet, like something huge had clawed at it. But deep below one of the ruined cities, a life sign blinked weakly. Still alive, Mira whispered. The Dawnbreaker landed, carefully. The crew wore sealed suits and stepped out into what was left of Velis Prime's capital city. Giant buildings had collapsed. Metal towers were bent like paper. Statues of strange, elegant alien beings lay broken. It was quiet. Too quiet. Rico checked his scanner. There, underground facility, 50 meters below. They moved fast. Tom blasted open the metal door leading to a hidden bunker. Inside, everything was dark, until a faint blue glow lit the walls. Rainer raised his weapon and stepped forward, and there she was. A female alien lay in a broken chair, her body thin and glowing softly. Her skin shimmered like liquid metal, and her eyes opened slowly. She looked scared, but more than that, she looked alone. Don't move, Tom said, raising his rifle. Rainer stopped him. She's not a threat. The alien weakly raised her hand. You are not with the Council? Rainer knelt. No, we're from Earth. We heard your call. She stared at him in disbelief. You came? Yes, we came. Her body shivered. She had lost too much blood. Mira moved fast, connecting a healing gel and feeding tube. The alien gasped, then whispered, I am Kalira of the Girini. Rainer nodded. We're here to help you, Kalira. Just stay with us. But Kalira's voice turned cold. You should not have come. They will know. They will hunt you, too. Who? Rainer asked. She looked up at the dark ceiling. The ones who destroyed us. The ones who feared us. Back on the ship as they flew away from the ruined world, Kalira rested in a sealed medbay. She was stable, but still very weak. Rainer stood in the control room, arms crossed, eyes on the stars. Rico broke the silence. Sir, why help them? Everyone else abandoned this place. Rainer didn't turn. Maybe that's the problem. Everyone always waits for someone else to care. Mira spoke softly. What if helping her puts us on the council's target list? Raynor finally turned. Then we stand on the list. Proudly. The ship moved faster, escaping the dead zone. But no one noticed the small black probe following them in the dark. It had no light, no engine sound, just a silent signal sent across galaxies. The humans have made contact with the last Zerini. The Dawnbreaker glided silently across the burned skies of Velis Prime. Ash floated in the atmosphere like snow, falling over broken towers and scorched hills. The crew was quiet, each person watching the planet below as if expecting it to scream. Inside, the medical bay, Kalira's eyes blinked open again. She didn't move. Her body ached and her skin no longer glowed. Her breathing was shallow. The moment she saw the human ship's walls around her, she panicked, jerking upright, chest heaving. Raynor stepped forward slowly, hands raised. "You're safe," he said calmly, her eyes locked onto him. "Why?" "You sent a signal," he replied. "We answered." Kalira narrowed her eyes. "No one answers that signal, not anymore." Raynor sat across from her. "We did." She stared at him. "You don't know what you've done." Mira entered with a warm liquid pack. "We brought you nutrients, your body's starving." Kalira didn't take it. "You should leave. Turn around now." Raynor didn't move. "That's not happening." Her voice turned colder. "You don't understand. If you help me, they'll come for you." Raynor's jaw tightened. "Who?" Kalira didn't speak for a long time. She looked at the metal floor. Her voice, when it returned, was quiet. "The ones who let us die?" Mira gently offered the nutrient pack again. This time, Kalira took it. She drank in small sips. After a few minutes, her breathing slowed. "They feared us," she said softly. "Not for our strength, but for what we knew." Raynor leaned forward. "What did you know?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she raised one hand. Light flickered from her skin. Weak, but still beautiful. A soft wave of silver-blue light danced across the room's walls, outlining invisible wiring and glowing patterns. "Energy," she whispered. "Not from machines, not from suns, from inside the fabric of reality." She looked at Raynor. "We didn't build weapons, we built harmony. We could guide gravity, bend light, heal decay." Raynor listened, carefully. "You had power, real power," Kalira nodded. "And we chose not to share it with those who would twist it." Mira glanced between them. "So they destroyed you." "They didn't destroy us," Kalira said bitterly. "They allowed us to be destroyed." She slowly stood. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright. "Do you want to see what they left behind?" Raynor exchanged a glance with Mira. Then he nodded. They landed near the ruins of a Capitol tower. The world was silent. No birds, no animals, no hum of life. Just wind and firestorms in the distance. Kalira led them carefully through collapsed buildings and melted statues. She stopped at a large plaza half buried in ash. "This," she said, "was our council chamber. The place where my people chose to keep the code safe." Raynor looked around at the ruin. "You think the council feared what you'd become?" Kalira knelt in the dust. Her fingers brushed an old stone, half cracked, carved with symbols. "They didn't fear what we'd become," she said. "They feared we might teach others to see beyond control." Raynor helped her to her feet. "Then that makes them cowards." Kalira studied him. "Your species, Earth, you don't have the strength to face what's coming. No one does alone." Raynor looked toward the sky. "Then maybe we stop doing it alone." Mira pointed her scanner toward a nearby structure. "Captain, I'm reading a faint power source underground." Kalira nodded. "It's what's left of our archive." Raynor turned to his crew. "Let's get her back to the ship first." Kalira's hand grabbed his arm. "No. I have to go with you." Raynor raised an eyebrow. "You can barely walk." Kalira's tone was firm. "The knowledge down there only responds to a Zerini. If I die before it's accessed, it's lost forever. Reluctantly, Raynor agreed. They climbed down through a broken tunnel deeper into the earth where even the ash hadn't reached. At the end of the descent was a chamber, untouched by war. Light still pulsed faintly across the floor. A pedestal, in the center, held a sphere of energy, floating gently. Kalira approached it, hands trembling. "This is the last pure echo of my people," she whispered. She reached out. The moment her fingers touched the sphere, it reacted. Lights filled the chamber, forming shapes in the air, star charts, ancient formulas, and something like music made of color. Raynor stared. "What is this?" Kalira's voice was soft. "A map, a warning, a gift." Then the light twisted. One of the star maps changed, highlighting a blinking red point far away. Kalira stepped back, pale. "No, that shouldn't be active." Raynor looked at the display. "What is it?" Her voice dropped. "Another archive, a backup vault, still functioning." She turned to Raynor slowly. "I may not be the last after all." Raynor's eyes at hers. "Then let's find out." Behind them, unseen, a tiny probe floating outside the chamber sent a signal to a dark ship far across space. The hunt had begun. The stars outside the Dawnbreaker's window looked peaceful, but inside the truth was not. Kalira sat on the medbay floor, her back against the wall. The glow of her silver-blue skin had returned slightly, but her eyes stayed hollow. Mira gave her a warm drink and sat close. "You don't have to tell us everything," Mira said gently. "Not yet." Kalira shook her head slowly. "No, you must know. You deserve to know what you've walked into." Raynor entered, arms crossed. Rico and Tom stood behind him, silent. Kalira looked at them. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "We were betrayed. Not by enemies, but by those we once called allies." Raynor's jaw clenched. "The Galactic Council?" Kalira nodded. 10 years ago. The Zirini had been a respected race, not powerful in war but strong in science. They lived in harmony with energy and light. They did not build weapons, they built peace. Then they discovered it. Kalira explained slowly, choosing simple words for the humans. "We found something deep inside a dying star, a kind of code, not like software, more like realities. Seed." She looked up. "It could heal planets, make broken things whole again, but also destroy systems if used with hate. The Council asked the Zirini to share it. They refused. They believed it was too dangerous to fall into greedy hands." Ixan. First, the Council respected their decision. Then, their ships stopped coming. Trade deals vanished. Their star maps were wiped from navigation systems. "They cut us out of the galaxy," Kalira whispered. "They told others we were hiding weapons. They turned our friends against us. Finally, the Council sent a peacekeeping force. It arrived with fire, plasma bombs, and machines that poisoned the land. The peaceful Zirini couldn't fight back. Raynor's fists were tight. Why? Why destroy an entire race for a code?" Kalira looked up at him. "Because they feared what we could become. Not rulers, but teachers." Her voice was bitter. "They don't fear power. They fear equal minds." Mira's eyes filled with tears. "They wiped you out because you refused to kneel." Kalira nodded. "And now, I am the last one who remembers the full code." Silence filled the room, until Tom broke it. "And now that you're on our ship, they'll come for us too." Meanwhile, in deep space far across the stars, in a hidden Galactic Council chamber, alien voices whispered in a dark room. A massive circular screen showed a blurry image of Raynor's ship and Kalira on board. A tall, insect-like being with 6 eyes hissed, "A human has made contact. This must be erased before it spreads." A second voice, cold and machine-like, replied, "Send hunters. Make it look like a pirate attack. Humanity must not know the truth." Back on the Dawnbreaker, Kalira stood slowly and walked toward the main deck. She placed her glowing hand on the transparent panel. The stars moved gently outside. "I should not have let you rescue me," she said softly. Raynor stepped beside her. "You didn't ask. We chose." She turned to him. "Then you must choose again. Either drop me at the nearest asteroid and leave, or prepare to fight every power in the galaxy." Raynor smiled slightly. "I'm tired of seeing people get crushed for telling the truth." He looked at his crew. "We don't run. We protect what's right." Kalira's glow brightened just a bit. Her eyes shimmered, not with fear but with hope. Something she had not felt in many years. But far behind them, the first bounty ship uncloaked, watching them quietly, target locked. The Dawnbreaker drifted in the silence of deep space, unaware that eyes were watching. Kalira sat alone in the cargo hold, her hands pressed against a glowing data crystal. She whispered in her native language, lines of energy forming shapes in the air, maps, codes, warnings. The ship's lights flickered. The crystal responded like it was alive. Meanwhile, Tom stared at the long-range scanner. His fingers tapped the console. Something was wrong. "Raynor," he called. "We've got shadows. Something's tailing us." Raynor entered the bridge, eyes narrowing. "How close?" Tom pointed at the radar. "They're staying out of range. But they're there. One ship, no, maybe three." Raynor stared at the screen. "Cloaked hunters." Mira joined them, her voice tense. "You think they're from the Council?" "No," Raynor said. "Worse. Mercenaries." Rico checked the energy levels. "Should we jump to hyperspeed?" Raynor shook his head. "Not yet. Let's see what they want." But the moment he said that, an alarm blared. "Missile lock," Tom shouted. The stars outside lit up as plasma. Torpedoes screamed through space. Raynor grabbed the comms. "Brace for impact." The Dawnbreaker rolled hard as explosions shook the hull. Sparks flew across the control panel. Mira fell to the floor. Rico grabbed the emergency seal controls, sealing off damaged rooms. In the cargo hold, Kalira was thrown back. The crystal cracked, its light fading. She rushed to the medbay, breathing hard. Raynor's voice echoed through the halls. "All crew to battle stations." "We are under attack." Tom managed to regain control of the ship, but barely. "We've got 2 enemy ships confirmed, third one's jamming signals." Raynor gritted his teeth. "Send a distress call to Earth, now." "No use," Mira said, coughing. "We're in blackout space, no signals getting out." Kalira appeared at the bridge, her silver blue eyes glowing faintly. "They won't stop," she said. "They've been paid to erase me, and anyone who protects me." Raynor looked at her. "Then we make sure they fail." He turned to the crew. "Plan B." Everyone froze. Plan B wasn't supposed to be used unless everything else failed. Raynor opened a hidden panel under the floor and activated a weapon Earth hadn't approved, an EMP blast tuned for stealth ships. "You really think this will work?" Rico asked. Raynor looked out at the stars. "It'll blind them long enough." Outside, the lead mercenary ship moved in. It looked like a floating spider made of black steel. Its weapons glowed red. Inside, Kalira grabbed Mira's hand. "Can help," Kalira said. "I can still channel the code even if it's weak." "What do you mean?" Mira asked. Kalira stepped forward, placed her hands on the control console. Blue energy flowed from her palms. The ship's systems surged. Shields grew stronger. Scanners lit up with new vision. Raynor stared. "You just boosted every system on this ship." Kalira nodded. "The Shirini didn't build ships. We became part of them." Raynor looked back at the scanner. "Let's see how you like a little blindness." He pressed the button. The EMP surged out like a silent scream. In seconds, the 2 closest enemy ships began spinning, lights flashing out. "They've lost lock," Tom yelled. "They're blind." Raynor turned to Rico. "Target their engines. Fire once." Rico did. A pulse beam shot forward and hit one of the ships dead center. It exploded in total silence. The second ship spun away, retreating. But the third one, the one that never attacked, was gone. "Where's the third ship?" Rayner asked. Tom scanned wildly. No trace. It didn't cloak. It vanished. Kalira's glow dimmed. They weren't here to fight. They were watching, studying. Rayner's face hardened. Scouting for something bigger. The ship floated in quiet again. But now the crew understood something clearly. This wasn't a random attack. This was a message. They wanted fear. Rayner looked at his exhausted crew. "We just survived our first ambush. Next time they won't hold back." Kalira stepped closer. "You still have a chance to walk away. Let me go. I'll find a way." Rayner looked at her, tired but firm. "You're on our ship. That makes you our responsibility." Kalira said nothing. But something in her eyes changed, like trust had finally been born. Later that night, while the Dawnbreaker made slow repairs, Rayner stood alone near the observation deck. He watched the stars, thinking. He had no backup, no government support, no promise of victory, but for the first time in years he felt sure of something. Helping Kalira wasn't just about saving her people. It was about reminding the galaxy that humans didn't turn their backs on those in need, no matter the cost. The silence after the battle was not peace, it was pressure, heavy and cold like the air before a storm. Rayner sat in the command chair, staring at the quiet radar screen. No enemy ships followed, no signals came, just silence. Too much silence. Kalira stood beside Mira in the med bay. Her breathing had stabilized, but her skin had dulled again. The energy she used to boost the ship had taken a toll. Her hands trembled as she sipped warm water, her glowing veins flickering like dying stars. "I felt something," she whispered. Mira leaned closer. "Felt what?" "Another echo, a signal like mine. Very far, very weak. But it was real." Mira turned to Rayner. "She's not the only one left." Rayner entered the room without speaking. He already knew what Kalira would say. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Another Zirini had survived. He looked at her. "Where?" Kalira closed her eyes. "Sector Delta 4, hidden moon base. Very old. It was meant to hold refugees, children mostly." Rayner didn't hesitate. "Set course." Tom frowned. "That's deep in Council territory." "I know." Rico stepped forward. "What if it's a trap? They could have sent that echo to lure her in." Kalira shook her head. "It wasn't artificial. It was raw, faint, painful." Rayner nodded. "Then we go." The Dawnbreaker's engines lit up, and the ship turned toward forbidden space. They flew without sleep. The deeper they went, the more broken satellites and dead ships floated around them. It was like crossing a forgotten graveyard. Names of lost colonies blinked on the scanner, ghosts of places that had vanished during the Council's silent purges. At last, they reached the moon. It looked dead. No lights, no defenses, just a cracked gray surface with one buried signal deep beneath. Rayner led the landing party, himself, Mira, Kalira, and Rico. They entered the old base through a sealed airlock, pushing through thick dust and rusted doors. The walls inside were lined with strange glowing patterns, Zirini symbols that pulsed softly as Kalira passed. She pressed her palm against a control panel. A deep hum echoed through the hall, and soft blue lights lit up the floor. The Dasso group reached the center of the base, and then they saw them. Dozens of tall glass pods still active lined the circular room. Inside each pod lay a Zirini, young, old, injured, frozen in stasis, preserved. Kalira fell to her knees. Tears welled in her eyes. "They're alive." But a robotic voice spoke suddenly from the center console. "Warning. Activation may cause signal detection by hostile forces." Rayner stepped forward. "Explain." The voice replied. "Power core is linked to subspace. Reawakening process will emit detectable energy spike." Kalira looked at Raynor. If we wake them, the council will find us. Mira turned to her. And if we don't? Kalira stared at the pods. They will die in silence, forgotten, like the rest. Raynor looked around the room. Every pod held a life that had trusted someone would come. He wasn't about to let that trust be wasted. We do it, Rico stepped forward. We'll need to boost their systems, might need to link to our ship's core. Kalira stood, wiped her face, and nodded. I can stabilize the connection. As they worked together, Mira watched Kalira closely. Something had changed. She wasn't just a survivor now. She was becoming a leader again. Not for herself. For her people. Minutes later, Kalira placed her hands on the base core. Raynor placed his on the ship's console. Human and Zirini energy mixed in the air, the light pulsing brighter with each second. Then it happened. One pod lit up, then another, and another. The first child's eyes opened, glowing faint blue. He blinked slowly, confused. His lips moved, barely a whisper. Is it safe? Kalira knelt beside him. You're home. We came back. But just then, outside, in orbit, the scanner on the Dawnbreaker lit up red. Tom, alone on the ship, jumped from his seat. 3 enemy cruisers had entered the system. The council knew. He grabbed the comm. Captain, you've got company. Inside, the base, Raynor's comm crackled with static. Kalira looked up. It's too soon. Raynor turned to the crew. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they strike. Kalira's voice was steady now. Then we finish this in 4. The rest of the pods began to open. The Forgotten were waking up. The council was coming. But this time humanity would be standing between them and their victims, and the galaxy would see everything. The first shot struck the moon's surface like a thunderclap, shaking the old base as dust rained from the ceiling. Lights flickered. One of the stasis pods cracked, but the child inside stirred awake just in time. Raynor grabbed the rail to steady himself. Status report. Rico's voice came over the comm from the Dawnbreaker. 3 council warships, heavily armed. They're surrounding the moon. They're not responding to hails. They came to finish the job. Raynor looked at Kalira. She held a small Zirini girl, newly awakened and shivering. He gently nodded to Mira. Get them to the ship. All of them. Mira hesitated. We can't move this many. We'll make it work, Raynor said. They don't need speed, they need protection. Another blast shook the base. Kalira looked at Raynor with steady eyes. They think we're weak. That will run. Raynor smiled. They forgot who came here. Outside, the Dawnbreaker powered up her shields. Tom, still alone at the helm, rerouted every scrap of power to defense and weapons. A targeting alarm buzzed. Incoming, he shouted. One cruiser fired a barrage of plasma bolts. The Dawnbreaker dove low, taking the first hit straight into the shield. Sparks flew inside the cockpit, but the ship held. Back inside the moon base, Mira and Kalira began moving the Zirini to a side tunnel that led to an old hangar. The few who could walk helped others. Some cried quietly. Some looked too shocked to speak. They were all breathing air for the first time in years, and it smelled like war. Raynor turned to Rico. How many escape pods do we have in storage? 6 functional, Rico answered. But they only carry 2 each. Use them for the smallest ones. Children first. Kalira touched the wall with her glowing fingers. Strange lines lit up the base's surface. There's one more option, she whispered. But it's not safe. Raynor raised an eyebrow. Define not safe. This base. It was built with an emergency phase gate, a wormhole door, meant to send the young ones far away. It was never tested. He blinked. Where does it go? Unknown coordinates. It's randomized, but it gets them away from here. Another blast cracked the outer corridor. Raynor didn't think twice. Prepare the gate. Outside, the council's lead ship broadcasted a message. You are harboring a Class C fugitive and stolen biotech. Surrender and disarm immediately. No trial will be offered. Tom grinned from the cockpit. Well, isn't that friendly? He punched the engines and fired 2 missiles toward the nearest cruiser. One was intercepted. The other struck the belly of the ship, tearing through armor. Not enough to destroy, but enough to make them angry. Raynor watched on the comm screen. Good. Let them get mad. That makes them sloppy. Back in the base, Kalira activated the gate. The air around the metallic ring shimmered. A strange portal opened, deep blue, swirling like water with a heartbeat. She looked at the crowd. Anyone under 10 cycles through the gate. Now. Mira guided the youngest Shirini forward. One by one they vanished into the light. Then the gate pulsed. Kalira froze. They've locked onto the energy signature, Raynor shouted. Shut it down. Kalira threw her hands up. The gate dimmed. But it was too late. On the cruiser, the enemy locked in. They're targeting the gate structure, Rico warned. Raynor ran to the edge of the base, looked at the sky. The cruiser above shifted position. A weapon began to glow red-hot, aimed straight at the moon. We can't outrun that, Mira said. Raynor breathed deeply, then turned to Kalira. Time to call in our final card. She looked confused. What card? He tapped his wrist communicator and sent a coded signal. Far above Earth, hundreds of small human freighters, patrol ships, and converted cargo vessels suddenly came alive. They had been waiting, listening, hoping. Within moments, jump gates across systems lit up. Back near the moon, the Dawnbreaker's scanner lit up with dozens of friendly signals. Tom stared, stunned. They actually came. Raynor's voice echoed over the ship's loudspeaker. Attention, Council vessels. You are no longer alone. Human ships of all sizes dropped out of warp, some old, some new, many held together with spare parts, but every one of them came ready to fight. From orbit, the Council's ships hesitated. For the first time, they were outnumbered. Kalira stared at the sky, her voice quiet. They came. Raynor nodded. Humanity doesn't leave people behind. The Shirini behind her, young and old, looked up with wide eyes. For years, they believed, no one would ever come. Now the stars were full of ships, full of hope, and full of humans who refused to forget. The stars over the moon turned red as the Council warships powered up their main cannons, but they were no longer facing a single vessel. The humans had arrived. Dozens of ships surrounded the Council blockade like wolves circling giants. Some were sleek Earth defense units, but most were civilian ships, recycled miners, freight haulers, old patrol cruisers. Yet every one of them carried weapons and resolve. In the Dawnbreaker's cockpit, Tom grinned. This is going to be loud, from Mir. Orbit, the Council issued one last warning. Final chance, surrender the Shirini and the human ship or be erased. Raynor stood on the moon's surface outside the old Shirini base, a borrowed helmet covering his head, his boots sinking into the dust. He stared into the sky and calmly answered, Come get us. The battle began. The Council's lead ship fired, first cutting a human freighter clean in half. The explosion lit the space like a second sun, but the humans didn't break. They fired back, missiles, beams, and hacked drones filling the stars. Raynor watched the chaos unfold from the feed, on his arm display. Behind him, Mira and Kalira worked to guide the remaining Shirini children into shielded bunkers deep in the base. The emergency wormhole gate had shut down from overload, but it had done its job. Half the children were already far away, safe. Kalira looked over her shoulder. They'll breach the surface soon. Raynor nodded. Then we hold the line. Back aboard the Dawnbreaker, Tom weaved through the battlefield using debris as cover. Rico manned the weapons, striking at the enemy engines, not just to destroy, but to disable. Hit hard, hit smart, he kept repeating. One Council cruiser took heavy damage and began retreating. Another tried to chase a human ship and got flanked. The humans were unpredictable, untrained in formal fleet strategy, but brilliant in improvisation. Inside the base, the power core sparked and groaned. The old systems couldn't hold up much longer. Kalira placed both her hands on the wall again, her veins glowing. The ship's lights flickered, then stabilized. "I can hold it," she said, her voice shaking. "You shouldn't have to," Mira replied. She reached out and gently pulled Kalira away. "We'll make it. Together." Outside, the battle reached its peak. A massive blast rocked the surface. The council had landed troops. Metallic boots thundered through the halls. The base doors shook under pressure. Raynor and Tom ran to the front lines, rifles drawn. "We can't let them in," Tom said. "We won't," Raynor replied. As the door burst open, the first wave of soldiers stormed in. Tall, armored, silent. Raynor fired first, aiming low. Tom followed. The narrow corridor became a deadly trap. 2 council soldiers dropped. The others pulled back. Mira radioed. "They're trying to cut us off from the reactor room." Raynor spoke calmly. "Block every tunnel except the eastern one. Let them think they have us cornered." Kalira's voice came through, low and urgent. "They'll never stop. Even if we survive this, the council won't forget." Raynor didn't hesitate. "Then we show them something they'll remember forever." Minutes passed. Another wave came. This one made it deeper. One of the Girini elders was hit trying to protect 2 children. Kalira screamed, ran to him. But it was too late. Something inside her broke. She stood up, eyes burning. Her skin glowed brighter than it had since they found her. The walls of the base reacted, lighting up, humming. "Kalira," Mira said, cautiously. "What are you doing?" Kalira raised both arms and whispered the ancient code, lines of energy flowing from her hands into the walls. The old Girini structure, forgotten and buried for years, came alive. Across the base, panels opened, shields deployed, light beams blocked hallways. The enemy soldiers were confused, trapped, cut off from one another. Raynor looked around as the floor vibrated. "She's waking up the base itself." Kalira stood in the center of the main chamber, bathed in light. "This place remembers what we were. I'm reminding it what we can still be." Above, the council ships began falling back. Human reinforcements poured in. A final burst from the Dawnbreaker hit the lead ship's engines, sending it spinning. The council commanders knew. They had lost not just the fight, but control. Inside, silence returned. The invaders were either gone or captured. The Girini stood in the corridors, watching the humans. Some still trembled, some cried. But all of them were alive. Raynor removed his helmet and looked at Kalira. "You saved your people." Kalira shook her head. "We did." She stepped forward and gently took Raynor's hand. "You came when no one else would." "Why?" Raynor smiled. "Because the galaxy needed to be reminded what it means to be human." Outside, the stars seemed different. Not brighter, but changed. And somewhere far across the systems, the other forgotten races would hear what had happened here. They would remember the name human, not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as the ones who stayed when everyone else ran.